What's up, agents, and welcome back to another Division video. We have been treated on the Trello to some Project Resolve PTS Phase 1 developer notes. And this is kind of a roundup of all the feedback that they've got, all the changes that they thought about making, and they've kind of told us what they think and what's going to be happening in the next phase of the PTS. Before we get into it though, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more Division videos. Let's get straight into it. So, quite a bit to go through. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's not really worth it because this all could change, but it is going to be interesting to know what the thoughts are from the feedback that they got. So it starts off with, hello agents. They are immensely grateful for all the feedback they've received following phase 1 of the TU20 and Project Resolve PTS. And we want to share our findings and next steps based on your experiences on the PTS. So, weapons and talent. So, enhance accuracy and stability of some weapons. Now, that was kind of one of the biggest things, I think, with feedback-wise that they got, that, you know, giving a weapon that, you know, you can't hit a barn door, you know, more power, it doesn't really matter because it's still not going to be used because it can't hit a barn door. But they've said here the primary focus has been on performance rather than handability. Modifying accuracy and stability will result in diminishing the unique characteristics of each weapon, potentially leading to harmonization, where all weapons become identical. Instead, our objective is to ensure that certain weapons are harder to handle, but in turn offer greater power when landing shots. We have decided to refrain from implementing any additional changes now. However, we will reassess the situation following the release and consider potential adjustments. I've got a few thoughts on this, and the problem they've got is that we've got some really good weapons in the game, and some of these really good weapons are really stable, and that then makes it just horrible to use anything else. You know, if you use something that's absolutely wild, you've got to then start speccing into weapon handling, and the extra damage that the gun's got never really matches up. So I guess that's the balance they've got to strike. You know, these weapons that they're saying that are, you know, are wild, but they're giving them more damage, more performance. Well, that performance has got to match up in the fact that we've got to take stats away from elsewhere to make them viable. And in PTS Phase 1, it really didn't feel like any of these buffs made any of the guns particularly viable. There was a few, you know, let's face it, there were some good ones. The Eagle Bearer was great. You know, the F2000 was great, but it's great to make them guns good, but it leaves others even further in the dark than what they were already. So I did do some videos with some maths and stuff. You can go back and see the spreadsheets and stuff and things like that. That's where everything was going to land. But I just don't think that... I think more changes are definitely going to be made and needed. You know, I just don't think they're quite hitting the nail on the head with these performance changes. The Mantis Exotic MR is too buffed and needs a nerf. I don't know who would think that. That seems really strange to me as well. I thought it was great. I thought I put it in a really good spot. It does have a hindrance. You've got to zoom in, and not many people like playing zoomed in the Division. It doesn't suit the game very well. So I don't really understand where that feedback came from. Certainly not me. The Dr. Home exotic rifle changes were unnecessary. Ooh, we have reviewed the feedback and determined that the Dr. Home requires a revision. Therefore, we will be reverting back to its original version. Oh, that's rough. So we're going to revert back to a version that's not really used. Whereas, see, this is strange to me. I mean, let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. It went from where it's never used to where it would be used a lot, and now they're reverting it back because it was going to be used a lot. Maybe it was a little bit OP, let's face it. You know, it was really good, but just tone that down, you know, so that it's still viable. Don't revert it back to a, you know, version that would not be used. Hopefully that might get another revision in the next, you know, we've got another PTS, you know, this, everything I'm saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that it sticks for now, but maybe in the next PTS we could offer up some changes towards that. With all the other weapons changing, the St. Elmo engine exotic AR feels underwhelming. Well, it certainly does. But it is very easy to get. It's just a regular loot pool drop, essentially. I know it's an exotic, but it's very, very easy to get. It's definitely not like a Regulus, a Ravenous, an Eagle Bearer. So I don't think it should be top tier, but it certainly shouldn't feel underwhelming either because it's an exotic. It should do something special. We hear you and we confirm that we'll be leaving it as it is for PvP. I mean, that's where it was the problem. That seems like, again, like a very strange thing to do. I really didn't see it. I saw PvP people shouting, "Hey, this is not going to be as much of a problem anymore." But it seems like they're going to be more of a problem still. All rifles should be given a 30 to 50% buff, accuracy and stability. Well, not all rifles. Some are super stable already. But some are absolutely wild. Same with marksman rifles. Like, they'll never be used. An SVD will never be used. It's way too wild. Doesn't matter how powerful you make it. You can hit one shot and the rest hit the barn door. Buffing the handling on every rifle would risk diminishing the individual traits. I mean, it would do. Yeah, you're right. That would make each weapon unique, potentially leading to a lack of diversity. Well, there is a huge lack of diversity in the rifle section already. It's called the M1A. Our main objective is preserving the current state of weapon handling, is to ensure a wide variety of weapons remain available. Therefore, we have decided not to implement any changes that would make rifles too similar. I mean, just tight. They really just need to think about that the M1A is, let's not talk about nerfing, right? We don't want to nerf anything. No one wants a development team to nerf anything. We've been there with the M1A before. It doesn't go down well. It's a great gun, but the other ones need something. Most of them need something, and this not doing anything like this is not it. I kind of disagree with this as well. I feel like I'm disagreeing with everything right now, but that's just my initial thoughts. The PTS comes around, things often feel very different. Concerns about the Nemesis, Regulus and Scorpio exotics getting a bigger buff in PvP now that the third attribute could be reconfigured. But this is true, but it's not just them three guns that's they're just three very popular ones. We're looking into this nerfing the Scorpio. Oh, they said the word nerf. Scorpio, Nemesis and Regulus in PvP only. Well, it's in PvP only. It's kind of fine. Like, Nemesis is already a bit of a disaster in PvP, so them nerfing them is not a big deal. Good, absolutely agree with that. That's great. Brand set changes. Well, they were pretty meh anyway, and I guess they were more for people who were leveling up, not for people who were playing it in game. Thanks for the suggestions. However, we currently don't have any plans to change brand sets. Our focus is enhancing the existing stats around them, not moving them around. Yeah, I mean, they needed to move around. They need a real good organisation. But maybe that's for another patch. Maybe that's for Project Resolve Part 2. And just not for this patch. Because that would then definitely come into the part that you are really rebalancing the game at that point. Concerns regarding armor regen scaling in PvP. We agree that armor regen buffs are indeed too significant. We have decided to implement the adjustments of these buffs for both PvP and PvE to ensure a more balanced experience for all players. Hang on, let me just read this right. Concerns regarding armor regen scaling in PvP. We agree that the armor regen buffs are indeed too significant. We have decided to implement adjustments to these buffs for both PvP and PvE. Alright, okay, so they're not told us what, but they are toning it down. Okay, alright, well, I guess we'll see what they have actually done. Conflict. Unbreakable didn't need a nerf. It certainly didn't. But they're reverting it back to its original PTS. I mean, that's good news. Either add more turrets or revert the change. The current implementation of the turrets did not achieve our goal of preventing spawn camping. Considering the technical constraints that prevent the addition of more turrets, we have decided to remove them for now and explore alternative options. So that just didn't work, and the whole mode of combat mustn't be able to have more turrets in the area, and I guess that's probably going to come down to hardware restrictions on consoles, which we found out recently with seeing the China version, which is PC only and gets way better cosmetics and stuff in much more themed areas, but it's down to the fact that they are PC only. Right, so that's interesting. So the conflict players are not going to be too happy about that for now, but hopefully some more alternative options will come around fairly quickly. Dark Zone. The rogue activation timer can be shorter. The timer is set up to stop players from going rogue near you. to see how a shorter timer would function. We'll be adjusting it to 3 seconds for the PTS on phase 2. That might be going pretty well. I mean, a shorter time, yeah, it's about being dangerous, you know, not warning people you're going to be dangerous. So that might go down fairly well. Descent. The suggestion to add reconstructed caches at a high price to the NSA shop. Yes, yes, yes. It's a great idea, and we are committed to implementing it. The cost of the caches would have to be very high, though. I absolutely agree, and I really hope this does come. Tick, 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 because there is no replay value in Descent right now. Like, I really hope they don't just add reconstructed caches there. Get exotic caches in there. Get seasonal caches in there. Give us something like the Countdown shop to spend our money on. Even with the season's length change, it still takes too long to reach the Nemesis. Our intention is to gauge the impact of the current changes in a live environment. Based on player feedback, we will make necessary adjustments in future title updates to ensure the best possible experience. Right now, we want to refrain from further shortening the session length, as it can lead to frustration due to waiting times between rooms and travel time. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, if you're really good at Descent, you can get it done in 30 minutes. If they made it shorter than that, people are going to be smashing it out shorter. So I'm definitely interested to see how that plays out, but fair play for that for now. Don't reduce the number of talents. The implementation of the change in PTS Phase 1 was not fully completed, as with the UI, the list of talents available in the rotation was missing. Okay. To ensure that players are aware of the current rotation, a comprehensive UI presentation will be added. We agree that 1 week interval might be too long between rerolls. Let's play the possibility of reducing the interval between... I mean, every day would be great for me. I think if you're going to reroll the talents in there, just reroll them every day. You know, don't put it on a weekly. Just change it up every day. Gear lock. This one's controversial and takes us pretty much to the end of it all, but let's see what they've said. Gear locking has generated mixed opinions, so we would like to provide further insights into our motivations. The Division 2 is a tactical shooter, meaning that strategic planning and decision making play a significant role in gameplay. One aspect of this strategy involves choosing and committing to specific gear items before engaging with enemies. Allowing players to swap gear during combat would diminish the tactical nature of the game. It would also introduce complexity, as players would need to be aware of the mechanics of their current gear as well as other options in their inventory. While some players may excel at managing the complexity, we believe it would make the gear system more difficult for the majority of players to understand and engage with. Additionally, balancing the game's difficulty becomes more challenging for us, as we would need to consider not only available builds but also the potential talent combinations that should not be possible during combat. We all know what they're talking about. We absolutely all know what we're talking about here. There are certain times you can switch things around and gain the buff when you've not got the gear already. We all know. However, we acknowledge that in certain situations, preventing load swapping can be overly restrictive. As a result, we have decided to remove the loadout block for rogues, in which was implemented in PTS Phase 1. That didn't go where I thought it was going to go. Right, so we ask you to concentrate your efforts in testing it with the following specs during Phase 2. Gear lock while in combat, regardless of what the game mode, remains as is. Gear lock while in conflict remains as is. Gear lock while rogue will be reverted and available for testing in the PTS Phase 2, giving rogues a little bit more of a step up. Okay. Additionally, we have introduced the following quality of life changes. You'll now be able to switch grenades. Yeah. We'll now be able to switch gear while in the shooting range. Oh, yes. You will now have a 1 minute grace period where you're allowed to switch gear after joining another player's session. Thank God. Thanks again for partaking in PTS Phase 1. Okay, cool. So Phase 2 must be coming fairly soon, but no mention of us being able to test, what's new in TU20. Is there new gear? Is there some new stuff for us to test? No mention of that either. I mean, this is still pretty controversial, some of these changes, I think. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this a step in the right direction, or are they still way off with this PTS? And just remember, very, very important to be constructive. and log your feedback, because otherwise there won't be a PTS phase 3, and some of these changes that people might be very unhappy with might slip through the net. So definitely important to give them your feedback, you know, so that we can get it exactly where we think it should be. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.